somehow it is already late Sunday morning. It's 10:55 because it wouldn't be TMA if we started general sessions exactly on time, or so I'm told by individuals as distinguished as past TMA Executive Director Bob Goldberg, who joined us last night. So welcome to the closing general session. I see Madam Board Chair returning to her seat, so, you know, we're all going to be seated and quiet now. Thank you for that. And about last night, how about that Heroes in the Fight award ceremony, right? I was just incredibly awed and humbled to be in the presence of Karen and Tom and Ingrid and Marianne Moyer's sweet husband, John, and son Mark and daughter-in-law Paula. Particularly fond of Paula, I must say. She's got a great name. And wow, her mother-in-law and the legacy of leadership that she left us. I really enjoyed every moment of Heroes in the Fight, and I hope that you did too. There has been so much happening this weekend. When I went back and looked at some of the pictures to pull into the next slide, you'll see, I'm on my phone and I'm swiping and I'm in a shared album that the amazing TMA team and our volunteer photographers, Gabby Lothrop and Michael Peck, have been contributing to. And yeah, let's hear it. So when I was looking at the pictures on the next slide and I'm swiping around on my phone, I'm like, wait, that happened? Oh my God, wait, I was there? Like, it's just, there's been such an incredible tapestry of events and activities, and it's all been amazing, celebrating our connection. So thank you to each of you. And thank you, of course, to our sponsors. Some of my favorite memories this weekend have been with our sponsors. I particularly enjoyed the CAR T session that immediately preceded this session here in this room, and appreciate Cabaletta and BMS for that sponsorship and everything that each of these companies has done this weekend. And it is my extreme pleasure to introduce and bring to the stage Robin Cahan, Senior Director, Customer Engagement Marketing from Pfizer, a Diamond Terrapin sponsor of TMA's International Annual Patient Conference 2024. Robin, please join me, and thank you so much to you and to the awesome team at Pfizer.
Thank you so much, Paula. Hi, everyone. My name is Robin Cahan, and I'm the IG Patient Advocacy Lead for Pfizer. I'm so excited to be here with members of our IG team as a platinum sponsor of this year's TMA conference. I would like to congratulate TMA for another amazing conference and for all the incredible work that you have done in support of patients over the years. This event has not only been a fantastic learning experience, but it's been a place for patients, care partners, healthcare professionals, and industry to come together, share experiences, learn from each other, and build a strong community of support. Pfizer would like to acknowledge the tremendous impact TMA has had on patient lives. Its unwavering advocacy, research, and support has played a pivotal role in advocating and advancing patient care and raising awareness about myositis. It is truly remarkable to see the progress that has been made, and we are proud to stand alongside TMA and all of you in this journey. With its 175-year legacy of helping patients, Pfizer is proud to bring IG treatment to patients who need it. We understand the unique challenges faced by those in the myositis community, and we are dedicated to developing solutions that address your needs. This year's conference has been a place for learning, networking, and celebrating the progress we've collectively made. Together, we are shaping a bright future for patients in the myositis community. Thank you so much, and it's been wonderful meeting you all.
Thank you so much to Robin and to the Pfizer IG team. And y'all, you know, she really means it when she says that the company is dedicated to solving your needs. And I know that many of you had the chance to speak with Pfizer and our other exhibitors this weekend. We're very grateful to all of our sponsors. Now, next to join me on stage will be Lindsay Guentzel, and you may recognize her from last night as well. She was on the red carpet along with Holly Jones as our red carpet correspondents, interviewing awardees and greeting everyone as they arrived for the gala. Today, Lindsay's doing something a little more serious and a little bit less sequined, but nonetheless fabulous, because she is going to share her story and introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you all.
One day I was healthy, and the next day I wasn't. It took 2 months to get a formal diagnosis. Dermatomyositis, a rare, incurable autoimmune disease that affects around 5,000 people in the US. For context, my hometown is over 8,000. I always wanted to be special. So, what is dermatomyositis? Great question. It's something I've spent the last 18 months and more than 290 doctor's appointments trying to figure out. The easy way to explain it is this. My immune system is attacking my muscles, causing inflammation, weakness, and deterioration. But it's much more complicated than that. Dermatomyositis affects multiple systems in my body, my muscles, my skin, my lungs, liver, joints, and eyes. It's a complex, multi-system disease that has dramatically changed my life. Before I got sick, I was a marathon runner who loved burpees and planks. Now, some days I feel okay, a slowed down version of my former self. Some days I'm managing the physical, mental, and emotional turmoil of coming to terms with the fact that I'm now a person who has a dynamic physical disability. Some days I can barely get out of bed. I will fight this every day for the rest of my life. An inescapable burden that has put so many of my plans and goals on hold. But at the same time, this fight has brought an immeasurable amount of good to my life. I joke that I'm the cliche, the person who gets the life-changing diagnosis and is suddenly delivered this healthy dose of perspective, that all the little things that used to bring me down, they don't really matter so much anymore. I hope every one of you gets that, in a much less dramatic fashion.
Note to self, don't try and cry backstage before you have to come out here. My name is Lindsay Guentzel, and as you saw from the video, 18 months ago, I joined this amazing community. Whew. I know you all get it, and as I was trying to think of what I wanted to share about my story, I thought, well, I'll just play this video. It's a video I played a couple of weeks ago for people who were attending a fundraiser that we threw to raise the money that we needed to come here because, as many of you know, this isn't a cheap disease, and I've been out of work since January, and my partner, John, had to quit his job in October because I couldn't be left home alone. And as a 38-year-old woman, that is a really tough pill to swallow. But I'm gonna keep this short because I am here as a newbie. This is my first conference, and I am going to challenge Chip as the biggest baseball fan, and I am gonna try and scoot across the street to that Orioles game as soon as humanly possible. Coming for you, buddy. And I'm so honored to get to introduce Dr. Victoria Shanmugam, and I've been practicing saying her name for weeks now because I was so nervous. Like, this is what I do for a living. So I'm a journalist, I'm a writer, I'm a podcast host, I'm based in Minneapolis, and I was really struggling with what I wanted to share with you all. Like, I can share my story with you, but our stories are all so similar, right? We've all been through it. And then I was sitting up in the hotel room last night with my incredible partner, John, and we were talking about some of the takeaways that we heard in the sessions. And the big one that I heard from so many people was the utter frustration we've all felt with the healthcare system and with having a rare disease and with having doctors who aren't looking for the zebra in the room, who just don't know enough about myositis. Now, I was diagnosed in 2 months, and I feel so blessed because I know that is the anomaly, right? Like, I am not the norm, I am the exception to the rule. And so we were talking about this, and the many people who stood up and shared their stories and talked about the frustration they were feeling. And here's the really frustrating part. In order for us to change that, that all falls on us. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, I already have a full-time job that is dealing with my healthcare, that is making sure that all of my appointments are taken care of and that I'm getting better. But if we want the medical system to understand what is happening, every single one of us has to become an even bigger advocate. And we all know we are our biggest advocates for ourselves, right? The self-advocacy that comes with having a chronic illness is exhausting. But this next step that I want to challenge everyone is taking it a step further and sharing your story and utilizing the networks that you have and getting in front of people. And it might make you uncomfortable, and I'm by no means saying that you have to do this, but that is how we are going to find ourselves with a medical system that knows about what we are dealing with. And whether that is speaking in front of your local community groups, getting on social media, doing media interviews, all of those things are going to build on top of what we are building every single day with the incredible work that TMA is doing. And Paula, I apologize because I ran this by Laurie last night and I did not get your okay, but I'm rolling with the, what is it, ask for forgiveness, not permission part of life. As a journalist, I have really been thinking about how I can help this community, and I was so inspired by so many people that I've heard, and specifically talking with Karen Alexander last night and hearing her message of like, this is just the beginning, right? For her, like, she gets this award, but this is just the beginning. And for me, I want to offer and take my skills and my background and work on building workshops for all of you who are interested to build your comfort level on camera, to help you share your story, to teach you what it's like to do a radio interview or to contact a journalist and try and get your story shared. Because as I said, like, the next wave is all of us taking a stand and getting our message heard and building that, because we can't rely on these incredible doctors who are so busy to be the ones to educate and to increase the knowledge and to increase the awareness. It's unfortunately going to fall on all of us. So, Paula, I apologize, I'm adding more to the plate for TMA. Great, I love it, yes. But that's kind of the next wave, and so I'm really excited about that. I love what I do, and when I lost my job and I stayed at home and I thought, what is next for me? Like, I was telling Karen last night, right before I got diagnosed, I felt like everything I had worked really hard for was about to come true. And all of the things, all of the sacrifices, everything was like, oh, we're right there, and I could taste it, I could feel it. And then I got this life-changing diagnosis, and people say to me all the time, well, you have such a positive attitude, and the response I always say is like, well, what's the alternative? Like, I feel miserable, I look miserable, and now you want me to walk around and be miserable? Like, no, like, that just, as I said in the video, like, you drop so much the second you get this answer because so much just doesn't matter anymore. So that being said, we're gonna work on some media training and workshops, and if you are interested, I highly encourage you, if you've never even been in front of a camera before, you sometimes make the best interviews. I will tell you that, because you have never been taught how to do things, quote unquote, the way the professionals do. So please do not shy away from that, and don't feel like you have to go out of your comfort zone too much. So I already went way longer than I wanted to, so let's move into why we're all here today. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today's closing general session, Dr. Victoria Shanmugam. She's the director of the National Institutes of Health's Office of Autoimmune Disease Research, and her presentation today is going to offer us a deeper and more enlightening look into the future of autoimmune disease research. Dr. Shanmugam is a distinguished physician scientist and rheumatologist with a remarkable track record in both clinical practice and research. She earned her medical degree with honors from Imperial College School of Medicine in London and is a member of the Royal College of Physicians. Her academic journey includes a significant tenure at Georgetown University School of Medicine, where she joined the faculty in 2007 and pursued advanced research training as a KL2 scholar at the Georgetown Howard University's Center for Clinical and Translational Science. Her research has notably advanced our understanding of scleroderma, wound healing, and the complex interactions between the immune system and the microbiome in the chronic wound patients. Dr. Shanmugam's leadership extends beyond research. She served as the Chief of Rheumatology at George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Sciences from 2014 to 2021, where she was instrumental in shaping the department and advancing patient care. As the inaugural chair of the Clara Biss Hinds Society for Women's in Medicine and Health Sciences, she demonstrated her commitment to fostering diversity and excellence in the medical field. Her extensive leadership roles within the American College of Rheumatology further highlight her influential presence in the realm of autoimmune diseases. In 2022, the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine conducted a critical analysis of NIH's research efforts on autoimmune diseases, leading to the creation of the Office of Autoimmune Disease Research within the Office of Research for Women's Health. Dr. Shanmugam now leads this pioneering office, which aims to support high-priority autoimmune diseases research. They work to identify emerging innovations and then foster collaborative efforts to address the challenges faced by patients with autoimmune conditions. Today, Dr. Shanmugam will share her exciting vision for accelerating autoimmune disease research at the NIH, which I know some of you got to go to on Friday. Her insights will provide us with a comprehensive overview of current research, highlight innovative approaches, and underscore the potential impact on conditions such as myositis. I speak for many when I say we are beyond excited to learn from her extensive expertise and forward-thinking strategies that promise to shape the future of treatment and therapies for autoimmune diseases like the ones that we battle every day. It's the perfect message to wrap up this incredible conference, one that I know will send all of us home filled with hope, optimism, and a renewed sense of determination as we all work together to find better treatments and someday a cure for our community. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Victoria Shanmugam.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for that brilliant introduction. Hopefully I don't break the microphone. It is a pleasure to be here, and that was an amazing introduction from Lindsay and an amazing story and such incredible work that she's done. And kind of, I love the kind of fact that she's open enough to share the pivot point, the change in direction of her life and her career. Because a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is kind of focusing on that, and we're at a pivotal time in autoimmune disease research also. And so you may wonder, like, why did Paula invite someone from the government to talk at this conference today? But I hope I can live up to expectations. So I wanted to start, because I actually cannot advocate for more funding for autoimmune disease research, but you guys all can, by giving you my talking points. So autoimmune diseases as a group, as you know, occur when the immune system, which normally protects you against infection, attacks pieces of your healthy tissues and organs. In myositis, obviously, the predominant target is the muscle, but as everyone knows, it can affect the lungs and other organ systems also. Most autoimmune diseases can be acute, like in Lindsay's case, or more chronic, and they obviously can be organ and life-threatening. But if you take autoimmune diseases together, there are more than 140 of them. And so while each individual autoimmune disease is quite rare, if you take them together, they affect between 7 and 8% of the population, and that may even be an underestimate, so it may be even higher than that. Approximately 23.5 million Americans are living with autoimmune disease. And to put that into context, at the end of 2021, 1.2 million Americans were living with HIV, which is a disease that is funded very differently and in which we've made huge advances over the last 30 years towards treatment, cure, and prevention. Because nearly 80% of autoimmune diseases are women, that's kind of the backdrop of why this new office was placed in the Office of Research on Women's Health. But what's important to know, and an important talking point, is we actually don't know the prevalence of autoimmune diseases in the US because we don't have ways to measure it, because we're not doing a good job of building longitudinal repositories of data that would let us know is the prevalence changing. The best data we have comes from Europe, and this has very small graphics, but really is just to show you that there is a trend toward increasing prevalence of autoimmune diseases. This group in the United Kingdom looked at health record data. It's a different system. They have a unified health record. So they looked back 20 years and looked at 19 different autoimmune diseases. Myositis wasn't in the mix, I'm sorry. But they looked at the prevalence of those diseases over the preceding 20 years and showed that in most cases the diseases were increasing. The blue lines are stereotypically male, the red lines stereotypically female in this particular graphic. They also, so this same group, were able to do an analysis that proved something that we in the clinical arena have known for some time, which is that it's quite common to have more than one autoimmune disease. And many of you sitting in this room probably are in that situation. So if you have one autoimmune disease, you're much more likely to be diagnosed with another, not only because your doctors are looking for things, but also because they commonly co-occur, which helps us understand perhaps that there may be common pathogenic mechanisms. The other thing that we know about autoimmune diseases is there is a prodrome. And so while Lindsay's story was a very rapid diagnosis after onset of symptoms, in many patients that's not the case. And there have been studies, this one in particular done more than 20 years ago, that have shown that your autoantibodies predate a diagnosable disease by at least 5 years in many cases, and probably longer. And very often during that time of prodrome, you're having some symptoms, it's just not definable as a clinical disease. And so you'll often present to the healthcare system and they'll say, well, you have something, we're not sure, come back in a year and we'll see, which is not actually a super helpful situation for you as a patient. So with this kind of in mind, this paradigm that I think has been talked about a number of times in this conference is that there is a kind of period of normal immunity that you're obviously, when you're born, on the background of genetic predisposition, and then some kind of exposures, environmental triggers, diet changes, UV light exposures, we're not quite sure, perhaps exposure to different viruses and toxins in the environment that take you from this normal immune system to a benign autoimmunity that then becomes pathogenic and ultimately gets diagnosed as clinical illness. I mentioned now a study that is not from myositis at all, but is from type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune disease predominantly diagnosed in children, although 50% of cases do now get diagnosed in adults, and we can talk about that offline. But I mentioned this example because it's an example where the researchers were able to get to that period of pre-disease and get to this kind of elusive concept of prevention. So type 1 diabetes predominantly affects children, or is predominantly diagnosed in children, and kids who have a relative with type 1 diabetes are at a much higher risk. So we know there are genetic factors. There are also autoantibodies. And so what this study did was looked at kids at risk of type 1 diabetes because they're siblings of someone who has type 1 diabetes and they've already developed autoantibodies, and said, well, if we give them an immune suppressant, so they have preclinical diabetes, type 1 diabetes, can we prevent disease? And they gave them a drug that's blocking a molecule in the immune system called CD3. They had not yet developed diabetes, these kids, and they were able to show that a single course of treatment, it's a 2-week course of treatment given IV, prevents progression to diabetes in those children. And so kind of getting us to this elusive idea that perhaps if we look at autoimmune diseases slightly differently, if we get to a place where we can study the pre-disease prodrome, could we get to prevention? Which is exciting to the autoimmune disease community, and I think very exciting probably to everybody in this room. So Lindsay had mentioned this report. I brought it with me as a prop. It's 400 pages long. If you want to read it, it is online, freely available to you as taxpayers. There is a summary in the front of the report, which I actually would recommend reading, because it actually does summarize what needs to be done to advance autoimmune disease research. And the two recommendations that I've actually spent quite a bit of time thinking about with other members of the NIH across the NIH are these two recommendations that I put up on the screen. And this report was written in 2022 by a group of experts from across the US who came in to kind of analyze what needed to happen to advance autoimmune disease research across the NIH. And their recommendations were these, that the NIH should support development of population cohorts that got to the period before disease manifests and that could look out over the long term in regards comorbidities, risk of progression, risk of flare, long-term outcomes, and that they should look at some of the key gaps identified by the committee particular to these common and disease-specific pathogenic mechanisms, the interaction of genes and the environment, and the impact of these diseases on the life of patients living with autoimmune disease. And so the major kind of first thing that happened after this report was sent up to Congress was that Congress then directed the NIH to establish the Office of Autoimmune Disease Research in the Office of Women's Health, which sits within the Office of the Director of the NIH. And that is the office that I now lead. We were tasked in that congressional mandate with these 6 items, which I'm going to read out to you because I think it's important to know about them. The first is to coordinate development of what they call multi-institute and center strategic research plan. That's now, the nomenclature has changed a little bit, so it will be an NIH-wide strategic plan for autoimmune disease research. They tasked us to identify emerging areas of innovation and research opportunity. I'm going to tell you about a couple of those shortly. To coordinate and foster collaborative research across the institutes and centers. To annually evaluate the portfolio. And when you see what the portfolio includes, I think you're going to be quite impressed. And then provide resources to support planning, collaboration, innovation, and ultimately point 6, which is what I've spent a lot of time meditating on, is this development of some form of repository that will allow us to look at long-term outcomes of autoimmune disease. And so what's in the portfolio? I get that this isn't a readable graphic, but this is what's in the portfolio. There are 144 diseases and conditions on this list. It does include some conditions that co-occur with autoimmune diseases and that we don't really know is the pathology autoimmune. If you scan the QR code, it will take you to a large print version. It is on our website. We kind of, for ease of conducting this portfolio analysis that we've been asked to do, we've broken it down by disease group just because it made that process pragmatically easier. But as you can see, there are a vast number of autoimmune diseases. They touch every aspect of the human body, and they actually fall into every single institute and center at the NIH. And so most of the work we do, we are doing in collaboration with every IC. So in regards to the strategic plan, there's a lot of work being done right now on the strategic plan for autoimmune disease. We have taken input from a number of different sources, including this analysis of the portfolio, which is really where is research being funded right now and what's being done and what are the gaps. We do host a session, and I'm going to tell you more about that shortly, that's called Updates on OADR, that is open to anyone, public and advocacy groups, and allows us to get input from the community. We actually put out a request for information that I believe the Myositis Association sent some comments in. We get input from the various NIH institutes, centers, and offices, and we have a working group that is really actively working on developing this strategic plan. I can tell you that the voice of the patient is front and center in the development of this. So you have a huge number of people really working on your behalf to get this done. So if you want to hear kind of what came in at the beginning of this process from the community, we do have a couple summaries up online from those first 2 OADR update sessions. So these were really information sessions where our advocacy groups were able to speak and tell us, what their feelings were about what needed to be done. We hosted 2 sessions in February 2024, and some were predominant community advocates and some were more academic advocates, but those summaries are available to view online if you'd like to take a look. The first thing anyone ever asks me when I tell them that I'm taking on this role leading this new office is, where is the funding, where is the money? So I published the information on that. So this was a summary introducing the office that we published in Arthritis and Rheumatology. Again, open online, anyone can read it. The QR code will take you to the actual article. And it just provided an overview of the FY23 activities. And obviously, we're just coming to the end of the FY24 funding cycle now, so I should have more information for you to share after that closes. But what you can see is that we do our work through the institutes and centers. So my office doesn't have independent funding authorities, but we co-fund things in all the ICs across that portfolio that I showed you with the 144 different diseases. We fund both intramural and extramural. And then I'm going to tell you about our kind of inaugural program that was this exact plan program. So in regards to myositis specific funding, I did want to highlight these 4 awards that were issued. So this is FY23 and FY24, 4 specific awards for myositis. And you know, we obviously hope to see that grow as time goes by. And then I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Exact Plan Awards, because this was the inaugural funding opportunity from the office. It is an extramural program, so these investigators are across the US, and we funded 6 different centers with a goal of having them come together and really develop plans for how to study the various exposures that happen to us in our lifetime and that contribute to the risk of autoimmunity. And that's a multitude of things, as we all know. And how do we really bring that into a research paradigm that can allow us to actually advance the science? You know, the disease is telling us something, and how can we help the science catch up? There is a little summary of each of the investigators' projects if you want to go to that QR code on the website. But there are both pediatric and adult investigators on that group. So they're studying across the lifespan. They're studying all the different exposures that happen to us over the course of our lives. In May, they did host a summit in Seattle, Washington, and this is the group of investigators at that summit, and we really kind of learned a little bit about all the different research across autoimmunity, exposure science. There are a group of people who study various infectious exposures and talked about how to approach integrating this research into autoimmune disease research. This is an ongoing program, so they're just coming to the end of that first year now, and we're obviously looking to the future of the program. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about what are we doing to try and support this research, again, across NIH, this is another editorial that's hot off the press. Actually, it was just published last month. I wrote it in conjunction with a number of investigators across the NIH, but it really talks about the various things that NIH is doing to try and support understanding the exposures across our lifetime and how that impacts the risk of autoimmunity. I want to take you now to an initiative that isn't quite as exciting as some of the things we've talked about, but is foundational to the work that we need to do together, and that is this push towards developing repositories requires us to have a common way in which we measure disease and the impact of disease. And this term, common data elements, is what we use to describe that. So these are essentially very precisely defined data questions paired with the appropriate responses that can be used across different research studies across the whole country and across the world to ensure consistent data collection. The NIH does have a way to develop these and to endorse these and make them official. And once that's done, it very much helps us as we bring together data from different repositories and try to analyze it across different studies. These are the current common data elements for autoimmune disease research that exist. And you will notice that myositis doesn't have any. Even the ones for lupus are very, very sparse. They're really binary. Does the person have lupus or not? And so they're not very useful for research. And so foundational before we can do really anything else is we have to get to a common language. We have to get to a common way that we describe disease and measure the impact on people's lives. And so this group is funded through our intramural research program. Lisa Ryder at the top is leading the charge. Many people in this room probably have been given an invitation to come to the meeting where they're going to be starting this process of developing standardized common data elements specific for myositis research. And the goal is to develop a database of tools for the myositis research community across the different forms of myositis that will allow us to develop core measures for myositis, patient-reported outcomes, harmonize the myositis assessment tools so that we can integrate different studies that are done in different areas or done in different ways, and to shepherd those common data elements through the NIH endorsement and really enhance some of the research that we're doing already through many studies conducted all across the US, and ultimately develop some databases and registries that will allow us to accelerate the research. The gentleman at the bottom of this slide, you probably don't know. So his name is Richard Sherman. He is the scientific director of the National Library of Medicine. So I can promise you that myositis right now is front and center in his mind. And he is instrumental in helping us address this problem. You will be excited to know that he is an immunologist by background. So he started his academic career at the University of Texas and then moved to the Venter Institute. For those of you who don't know, the Venter Institute are the people who sequence the human genome. And so he is a very experienced data scientist, and he is helping with this process. And so I can assure you that with Lisa Ryder and Richard Sherman at the helm, this is in good hands. It is a critically important process for myositis research, but also for autoimmune disease research in general. And you guys are leading the charge. And so I'm really excited to see the work that you do together. For all the other diseases, of those 144 diseases on my list, we have a different mechanism that is open to the public and live on the street. So if you happen to be a researcher or a patient who has interest in other autoimmune diseases, this one is for you. So this is an R13 to support other communities coming together. And when I say coming together, I really mean this needs to be academic researchers with advocacy groups and patients coming together and coming to consensus about what should be measured when we look at autoimmune diseases. So we have this funding opportunity live on the street. If people are interested in applying, there is a bit of a process to applying, so read the funding announcement, and the first step is to email my office, and so we look forward to hearing from you. So this summary is just kind of what we've done in the last year, and I will note I started in my role in November of 2023, so there was a lot of work done before I got to the office, but I can tell you that it has been a whirlwind 9 months since I began in my role. So as you can see, the NASEM report was published in 2022. The office was then established very early in 23. We got that first funding opportunity out on the street in the spring of last year and named those awardees later in the summer. And then since I've come on board, we've really been pushing forward on the strategic planning. We've started a number of different things for the community of people living with autoimmune diseases that I'm going to tell you about, one of which is this program called Science Talks, which is online, open to the public. Anyone can join. You can sign up on my website. It happens every quarter. And the goal of these sessions is to bring 3 scientists from disciplines that wouldn't necessarily have been in the same room together, that are looking at autoimmune diseases from different perspectives, and to get them in the same room. It's a virtual room, so it's always on Zoom. So in the same Zoom room, and get them thinking about the science. So we call it Science Talks because the science is doing the talking, and our job is to kind of listen and figure out how do we get the the science to catch up with what the human biology is telling us. And so we've hosted 2 so far. The first one was about this concept called exist, which is actually one of the molecules that we think is the reason why autoimmune diseases are more common in women. And then the second one was just a week and a half ago, was looking at viral triggers of autoimmunity. That also, I think, is a common question that many of us have of, you know, what is triggering the autoimmunity and also what is triggering flare. So I'm going to turn now to another aspect of my office, which is that we sit within this larger office, the Office of Research on Women's Health. And there has been a lot of kind of exciting things happening in that office too. So back in the fall and early spring, a new executive order was issued focused on advancing women's health research and innovation. So the goals of this were to integrate women's health research across the federal research portfolio, to prioritize investments in women's health research, to galvanize some of the research around women's midlife health, and to address some unmet needs. What you might ask is women's health research. Well, so they do have a definition, you'll be pleased to know, and it's research aimed at expanding the knowledge of women's health across the lifespan, including the study of conditions specific to women, conditions that disproportionately impact women, which of course is autoimmune disease, and conditions that affect women differently, which, if you think about it, is even the autoimmune diseases that we know are more common in men, but that women seem to have a different outcome from, which would be your inclusion body, myositis. There is a strong emphasis on innovation through this mechanism, and so small business awards are being made through this mechanism. And there is a notice of special interest live on the street. So for the pharma companies that are in the room, this is open. And it pairs to every single funding opportunity that the NIH offers. And you will notice that front and center in that list of predominantly affect women is autoimmune diseases. So, you know, we can't fund research that doesn't get submitted, but this is a funding mechanism that should be of interest to most of the people in this room. And every ICO is participating in this. So as I'd mentioned, both my office and the Office of Research on Women's Health don't fund independently. So all the awards that we make are made through an institute or center, and we co-fund them. But the kind of governance mechanism probably doesn't matter so much to you, except to know that more funds are coming for autoimmune disease research. I will note that there is a NIH-wide strategic plan for research on the health of women just published this year, and if you are planning to apply through the mechanisms that I've just been saying, I highly recommend that you at least read the 5 strategic objectives, because you do have to kind of at least have some narrative about how your science fits into the mission of the strategic plan for research on the health of women. So long as you are a smart scientist, that shouldn't be difficult. There are a couple funding opportunities also open to the general community. I list these on our website, and the QR code takes you to that page of the website. But just to kind of highlight that we have a number of opportunities open, I curate this list, actually personally curate this list for the autoimmune disease research community. And so we update it very regularly, at least once a week. It is worth keeping it on your favorites list if you are a researcher, because there's plenty of things that come out on a regular basis. The other one that I want to kind of highlight and bring to the forefront of the people who are researchers in the room is the one at the top. We do offer supplements for people re-entering the workforce, the research workforce, for any reason. So these would be supplements to an existing grant. So there would need to be an investigator who's currently funded, and then someone re-entering the workforce, for example, someone who left the workforce because they developed a life-threatening autoimmune disease, could return to the scientific workforce and do good science. And so just keep these in mind, and more to follow. So for the general community, we also do host every quarter, as I said, a session called Updates on OADR. And the purpose of this is actually to give you some high-level updates on what's going on in the life of the office. This meeting is always about a week after our internal coordinating committee on autoimmune disease research meeting. So you get the high-level updates that I'm allowed to share from that meeting. And it's as up-to-date as I'm allowed to make it, and I promise you I try to be as open as we can. So the first half of the meeting is that little update, and then the second half of the meeting is an opportunity for our communities to unmute and speak. And so we allow anyone to come to this. It's not restricted at all. Members of the public come, advocacy groups regularly come, and actually what we want to hear about is what's going on in the life of myositis community and how can we assist. So it's typically not question and answer, it's actually much more the Myositis Association wants to make us aware of. We're developing an initiative, we're very excited about Myositis Awareness Month, those types of things. We do have one upcoming in November, and there will be one every quarter for 2025. Again, we keep these on our event webpage. Anyone can sign up. These are not recorded because it's very complex. If I record them, then I can't allow people to unmute. So in order to allow the dialogue, we decided we would not record these. We do write in a high-level summary, but they're best attended live. I also want to give a big plug to our December science talk session, which I actually think many people in this room will be excited to listen to. So we will be looking at the cancer-autoimmune connection and trying to decode that paradox. We have 3 amazing speakers, including someone who is an expert in myositis and scleroderma. I am really excited about this session, and I hope that you can join us. These sessions are both live on a Zoom webinar and also videocast through the NIH videocast system. So if you want to go back and watch any of the previous ones, they are maintained and you can watch them at your leisure. They do run about 2 hours. They are high-level science, but I can promise you they actually are addressing science from a different perspective. And I will tell you, the one that we hosted in August, which was focused on viral triggers of autoimmunity. We had more than 70 questions come in through the Q&A. Those questions, obviously we couldn't answer 70 questions live, but we download those, we disseminate them to both the program officers throughout the NIH who are developing programs for autoimmune disease research, and then also to the people who spoke. So we listen very much to the questions that are coming in from the audience. If you'd like to keep updated on the life of what's going on in the office, sign up for our emails, and I'll leave this up for a second so that people can take a photo of it to figure out the instructions. It's a government delivery website, so it is a little bit kooky, but you put your email in and then you have to scroll down to tick the box that says the Office of Autoimmune Disease Research. Otherwise, you won't get the right emails. But do please sign up for our emails. We send out regular updates, but we don't spam you. And then if you just want to keep abreast of news and events, these 2 QR codes will take you to those different pages on our website. It has been a pleasure coming to your conference today, and I really, really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. And I think Paula is now going to line up a few questions.
Thank you so much, Vicki, and thank you to everyone for your attention and for the number of questions that were submitted in advance for Dr. Shanmugam. We'll get through at least a few. We'll do as many as we can, if I can find the list of questions. Oh yes, here we go. Okay, so here in Baltimore, our conference theme for IAPC has been celebrating our connection. And we're very curious, Vicki, about how connections are made at NIH and how they're maintained. And you mentioned the ICs in different centers. So can you kind of tell us what that environment is like for the researchers?
Yeah, so, it's a large government organization, and there are 27 different institutes and centers throughout NIH, and anyone who made the road trip to go visit NIH knows it's a huge, enormous building, a massive campus, and research is being done in a number of different ways across NIH. So we have done a few things to try and connect that community, because in reality, when you have an organization as big as that, sometimes, the researchers themselves don't even know quite what what's going on in different institutes and centers. So one is to bring those science talk sessions together. Another is that we provide these updates, and actually the NIH community comes to those as well. We do have a coordinating committee, because government, everything's done by committee, so there is a coordinating committee for autoimmune disease research. This was convened over the summer and has really gotten going since I started enroll in November. We meet actually monthly to discuss the strategic plan and quarterly to kind of look at more global autoimmune disease research issues. That committee has on it a member and a backup member from every IC and a number of the offices at NIH. So there are other offices similar to mine that sit within the Office of the Director. So we've really brought together the whole community that has interest in autoimmune disease research, is doing autoimmune disease research, or is funding autoimmune disease research, so that we can get people in the same room talking about the right way to approach things. And that dialogue, particularly pertaining to this development of the strategic plan, has truly become a very collaborative dialogue over the course of the last 9 months. So I'm actually quite excited that we've done a good job kind of bringing that community together. And I think that's kind of front and center in our mind in terms of what needs to happen to advance the research.
Thank you, that's very helpful. While I was listening to your remarks, I was kind of thinking, oh, so Dr. Shanmugam's job is basically like lighting a match, like you're sparking things and sort of weaving together the activities across NIH. It's fascinating to hear, and I want to thank you for highlighting the myositis work that you did. TMA does work closely with NIEHS and NIAMS, and I can confirm that we are represented in the Myositis Common Data Elements project, so really excited about that as well. Okay, so one question that came in, so often members of our community, they just, when they're reporting symptoms, they just hear, oh, well, you're getting older. So how do you think, Dr. Shanmugam, that we can make the medical community more aware of myopathy and myositis, especially in older folks, so we can not have physicians just disregard the symptoms as getting older?
Yeah. So that's actually been a very common theme across many different autoimmune diseases. So very frequently, it takes years to get a diagnosis of an autoimmune disease. So you're definitely not alone in that situation. And it's something that we've been thinking about a lot as we're pulling together this strategic plan, is we need advances in diagnosis, improving earlier diagnosis, improving our understanding of what that prodrome is, and could we really kind of move to understanding that prodrome so that we could actually treat during that prodrome. And those questions are very important to us in terms of how we approach this work. I actually am fascinated to see kind of how you're approaching it from the myositis standpoint, particularly with inclusion body myositis, which I think is another one of those diseases that quite often gets missed with a delayed diagnosis. And so, yes, that is something we're really working towards as well.
Thank you so much. Perhaps just one more question. What do you think, Dr. Shanmugam, about patient representation and research, and how can we bring myositis voices more into that? And I will share with you, we had a literal waiting line of conference attendees yesterday to participate in some of the study recruitments that Johns Hopkins University was doing here. So there's a lot of eagerness. How do you think patients can be more involved in research?
Yeah, I share that kind of opinion that all, we're all kind of trying to address these autoimmune diseases from our different standpoints, and I think we need to come together to do that. It is critically important to us, particularly with this CDE project, that we have patient voices at that table, and so that's for myositis for sure, but across other diseases as well. But I think when you look at disease communities that are able to come together and approach this as a team, you get much more rapid advances in the science. The scientists ask questions that really are going to be paradigm shifting for the people living with the disease. And it is a much more efficient way of approaching research. And so I would urge across all disease communities that that's going to be a crucially important piece of advancing the science, is hearing the patient voice and the challenges and how can we really address those. And I will say it's been kind of woven in as we've been putting together this strategic plan. The strategic plan won't be released until August next year. I'm sorry about the long lead time, but because the federal government, you need lots of approvals. So I promise you it's coming, and I think you're going to be happy with it, but more to follow.
Well, that's an excellent sentiment to close on, I think, Vicki. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So thrilled to have you. I kind of want to look at the pages you've bookmarked.
Yeah. She was pointing out that I have bookmarks in it. I take it to bed at night, actually.
Well, I know that autoimmune disease research is in good hands. In that case, thank you so much. I really do truly believe that autoimmune disease research is in superlatively good hands at NIH, and we really appreciate Dr. Victoria Shanmugam joining us this morning as our closing keynote speaker. We have just a few more items to dispense with before we adjourn and let you go to the Orioles game or to the airport or wherever you may be headed. You know, I think it goes without saying, but to state the obvious, this conference is TMA's biggest and best program of the year. So I really hope that you have taken every opportunity here to learn, to ask questions, and to have a good time while you're at it. I really enjoyed this conference, and as I was walking around, I loved to see a lot of new connections being made and a lot of I don't want to call them old connections, so maybe I'll call them well-seasoned connections. I heard a lot of hallway chatter about, you know, folks having been at 10 or 12 conferences, and oh, I saw you in Louisville and all of that. So we're really, really, really so proud of what we all achieved together here this weekend. And I'm only one person. There's a whole army behind me of folks who contributed to our success here in Baltimore. So let me do some thanks. First of all, thank you to our speakers, Dr. Shanmugam and all of the others, Jessica Buchanan on Friday night. Incredible, right? First and foremost, the speakers. Next up, thank you to the conference advisory group, which consisted of Nancy Marks Erickson, Bitsy Anderson, Holly Jones, Julie Pack, and Adam Schiffenbauer. Big ups, thank you for your help and your counsel. Thank you to all of the on-site conference volunteers, the mic runners, the conference buddies for first-time attendees, moderators, session helpers, conference bag stuffers, the people who just said yes when we asked them to do something random in the hallway. Thank you. We appreciate you. And to our sponsors, and here I know that I repeat myself, but I just have to say it again, thank you to TMA's conference sponsors. You made this 2024 International Annual Patient Conference a triumph, and we're grateful for your partnership. Next, very important group of folks, the amazing TMA staff. I'm very proud to be a part of this special team. You know, of course, Linda Cobert, Rachel Bromley, also that includes Susie Helm, Erica Howder, the Dogwood Event Strategies team that has supported our success here in Baltimore, led by Mary Beckton with Monica and Rose, primarily at registration, the Hurlitz team with our exhibitors, Chris and Tristan. Behind us, the marketing and communications support from Sassy, a firm led by Julie Schumacher, excellent support from Emily Linning, Tiffany McCoy, and Sarah Steven. It's really great because they're also going to help us edit these videos. So when the time comes, the amazing marketing team that helps us with our video content is going to be like, yep, Paula did that. Sorry, guys. Also to our business partners, you know, this is a hometown conference for us, and so you may not have known it, but we had in the audience at Heroes in the Fight last night about 16 business partners. Our printer, the printer who made the conference program booklets that you pulled out of your tote bags, they were here sitting with myositis patients, learning about how your families are affected by this disease. Our financial and bookkeeping, the contract team that helps to pay invoices and prepare our taxes and all of that amazing financial expertise from Liz Quist and Associates and 1 Degree Financial. Other partners, like our IT support from Opfinity. Michael Drobnos was here, who's the CEO of the firm that supports TMA's IT. And I'm listing all of these by name because I think it's so important to acknowledge that we are all here and we have had such an amazing time, and now it is on us to help other people understand and celebrate the myositis community too. And TMA takes very seriously our role in doing that. And so believe me when I tell you that nobody does business with us without learning a whole lot about myositis along the way. Now, finally, my biggest thank you is to all of you who have attended the conference. We really appreciate what it takes for you to get here. And I have talked to so many of you over the last 9 months, like Dr. Shanmugam. I have also had a whirlwind 9 months in a new job. And so many times I've heard the conference is a bucket list item. And now I know exactly why, and I have an even deeper appreciation for what it takes to get here. The expense, the time away from your family, job, home, all of those things. So we're really grateful, and we applaud your commitment to be here, to make it happen, no matter what, and your willingness to share with others while you were here. And it was awesome to be with you and in your presence. So, okay, that's it from me to wrap things up and to send us out of here with a home run, if you will. I will pass the mic back to Laurie Boyer, chair of TMA's board of directors. And I do want to say, Laurie thinks about y'all all the time. The Conference Buddy program was her idea. So many special touches here this weekend. She would call, often on the weekends, and say, hey, Paula, what do you think about da-da-da-da-da-da? And she's always studying you and observing you and trying to figure out how to make your experience with TMA better. And so I give you your chair of your board of directors, Laurie Boyer.
That's like a mic drop, right? Just I thought I'd have a couple more minutes before I do that. All right, you guys. So thank you so much, Paula, and for everyone on the TMA team. Really, it's beyond measure all that you guys do to make this special conference come together. It's been a wonderful celebration of connections at our IAPC, and I'm once again very happy to be a part of it. Your feedback is so important as we plan for the IAPC 2025, so please complete the evaluations, which will also be emailed out and is also available in the app. We will announce the 2025 conference location soon. I know it's tradition, you guys. It's been for over 10 years, but we're doing our due diligence to make sure that it's even better next year than it was this year. So keep your eyes and ears open for that exciting news. Now, this is a super fun part. I get to give away some prizes. So, our amazing vendor, IndyLift, generously donated 5 of their lifts for people at this conference today. So what I'd like to do, yes, that's huge. I have 4 names of people who are going to have them shipped to their house. But at this time, if you drove here and you would like your name entered for the possibility of taking one home with you today, so if you have a little room in your vehicle to take one home, if you can raise one of your business cards up in the air, we will come around and collect them, and then we will draw one out of that group. Okay? So, 4 people who are getting them sent to them is Daniel Alfaro, William Hutchins, Cynthia Marks, and Marie Schwitzer. So those will be sent to your home. We have your information, and thank you once again, IndyLift, for your extremely generous donation. So I'll announce the one going home today in just a minute, because then we also have a couple more giveaways. So you guys took your time to go around and support our wonderful exhibitors at their booths, and so we appreciate your time and efforts to do that because they're the ones helping to make this conference happen. So we have a $100 gift card, Visa gift card, well, MasterCard, and then we have a $50 Visa gift card and a $25 gift card. So the first person who's receiving the $100 gift card for completing their exhibitor form is Joseph Urban. Is he here? Yay! Congratulations, Joseph. Our second winner is Jackie Bauer. Jackie, you're here too, yay! Awesome. And our third winner is Tina Carter Pearson. Is Tina here? Fantastic. All right, wait, there's more. So we also have winners from our bingo. So originally we said that there was a $100 gift card to go out to our bingo winners, but we actually have two. So we have a $100 gift card for our first winner and a $50 gift card for our second winner. So the first place winner is Benjamin Odom. Is he here? And our second place winner is Kelly Sexton Alfaro for the $50. So I will pass those and take these. Thank you. All right, you guys, I'm gonna shake them up, shake them up. Don't look, shake them up. Pick one, it's gotta be a good one. I feel like I'm like a dealer here, dealing some cards, you know, shuffle them up. All right, so let's see. Let's see, Gabby, will you pick the winner for me, please? She's my Orlando buddy here. And going home with them today is Julie DiDonato with the Indie Lift. Awesome, Julie. Fantastic. All right, don't want to mix those up. Well, for those of you who do know me, you know that I'm a huge sports fan, and you might have spotted me in a Yankees jersey. I might have been booed on Friday. It's okay. I was thrilled to get to also visit the Babe Ruth's historical home while here in Baltimore. That was pretty cool. So it's been really fun to be at this conference, perched right above Camden Yards and literally seeing the game in action. When I think about baseball, though, I think about Vance Robinson, and some of you may know him and his first Pitch for Myositis awareness campaign. So Vance, he's out in California, and he couldn't be with us this conference weekend, but he did record a video, so take a look.
Everybody, Vance Robinson here. V-Rob's Myositis First Pitch Campaign. IBM since 2009. I started my first pitch campaign in 2017. I hope everyone learned a whole bunch this past few days at the conference. I wish I could be there, but I just can't travel like I used to, so here I am. I hope everyone takes all their knowledge back home, and you learned a bunch, you met a bunch of nice friends, and here's coming at you. Here we go. Woohoo! Have a safe trip, everybody. Safe travels. God bless.
Thank you, Vance. And now that Vance has pitched it to us, let's all take our stress ball baseballs, say that 3 times fast, and our first pitch wristbands and carry home with us all the connections we have been celebrating. Thank you guys so much and safe travels home.